your opinion on Money in the Bank? Would something like that have worked in the territory days?
Well, yes. I mean, the concept of a match where somebody can win a title shot that they can use at a later time is in and of itself is a wrestling angle. It's only if you stupid it up, it wouldn't have worked in the territories. If you had job guys winning it and cashing it in comedy bits, then nobody would have give a shit. But if you, it's all in the presentation. Any gimmick match or any stipulation or any rule can be done to draw money or not to draw money. It depends on the presentation of it and the people involved in it. And if you've got guys that nobody takes seriously involved in the match, you're not just elevating a young up-and-coming rookie to a main event spot. You're just putting underneath guys in for no reason. Or you're just kind of throwing it off, laughing it off, or just not making it as important as it could be. An example, the blindfold battle royal. This was a staple because Nick Goulas, somehow they came up with this in the 40s. And they would have these spot show cards in small towns with 6 or 8 guys on the card, right? In say 3 single matches or 2 single matches and a tag, whatever. And then they would have everybody come back and put hoods over their head. You've seen versions of it, the Algerian death match with, Mad Dog Vachon, I think, or the goddamn, what was it, the Jim Bowie death match in Mid-South Wrestling with Carl Cox and Dick Murdoch, or the Jake Snake did something like in the WWF. You put a black hood over your head so you allegedly can't see. And these 6 or 8 guys you'd all get in the ring in blindfold battle royal, and the last man in the ring, you had to be thrown over the top rope, or you could be pinned because, what the fuck, it's a spot show. Last man in the ring wins the money. Well, that was just an add-on after 30 years in the Tennessee spot show towns. Nick Goulas, one time he did his promos himself on TV where he'd interview the guys, and he had that thick accent, he was a Greek from Birmingham, but Louisville wrestling fans, Tuesday night, you in store for one of the biggest cards I've signed in many years, headlined by the Return Grudge NWA Southern Junior Heavyweight Championship match between the champion, Jaddy King Lawler, and his challenger, the fabulous Jackie Fargo. In the studio with me right now. That was it every week, right? So he tried to say in Rabbit Ridge, Kentucky, there would be a 9-man blindfold battle royal. And what he got out was a 9-blind man manifold, 9-blind man in the match, all fighting together. But anyway, so the fucking deal is it was a throw-on for the spot shows, and it didn't sell ticket, didn't draw 15 cents Chinese money, couldn't draw money with green crayons, et cetera, et cetera. But Bill Dundee in Mid-South Wrestling happened to mention it to Bill Watts, that they used to do that, and Watts put his spin on it. And one time in that year, every week around the territory, or every town around the territory, for 2 weeks, it was the main event in the big towns. An 18-man blindfold battle royal, but it was presented as, ladies and gentlemen, after the match, after the regular card is over with, is a special lights out match. Each man has put up $500 or $1,000, whatever would be believable. And 18 of the toughest, biggest, strongest, roughest men, the Hacksaw Duggans and the Butch Reeds and the Midnight Expresses, they're all going to be blindfolded. 18 250-pound men fighting for $20,000 or whatever it was. Can you imagine if they're thrown over the top rope and they're blind? Well, they could be basically killed, right? The most dangerous situation you could possibly imagine. And the fucking thing drew. It drew once. In some cases, you could make an annual event out of some gimmick event like that. So the point is, it's in the presentation. If you had the top guys in the territory in a main event match to see, who could have the right to have a championship match at any time, and then they decided to cash that in after some angle, blah, 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 yeah, it would have drawn. But just to make it goofy and have guys carrying briefcases around or whatever, no, it depends on who's in it and how you do it.
Other than the briefcase, which obviously you're not a big fan of, and certainly I'm not either.
Well, no, I'm not saying I'm not a big fan of, and once again, the briefcase, but I'd rather see the manager carrying the briefcase instead of a guy, and it's a little flashy, but I understand that's budget for showbiz, but the concept of that, yeah, go ahead anyway.
But what do you think of the concept of Money in the Bank? Someone winning the chance to redeem their Money in the Bank at some point later in the year for a title at any time they want. What do you think of that as an annual event, which it is now? It happens every year.
Well, but okay, it's not. It's the theme of the pay-per-view, but they have other matches, correct? Or the theme of the big event, or whatever they call them these days. Right. Now that the network's around,
correct.
So basically, yeah, they've just themed a big show around it, but it's one match. So I don't have a problem with that either. If it's the main event with a bunch of top guys or just two top guys or whatever the case may be, whoever's fighting for it. I'm not it's how you do it. I can't be against it. But now here's the thing. Also, when you cash it in anytime you want, Vince McMahon used to have a saying, let's not kayfabe ourselves. A surprise has to be a surprise for a reason to lead to more money. A match that draws more money than the surprise would have drawn itself. In other words, if you've got the return of goddamn, like Heyman and ECW, Candido told me, well, we're stuck for a surprise. We got to have a surprise on every show. I said, well, by the definition of a surprise is an unexpected occurrence. If they're expecting a surprise, it's not real, but nevertheless. If you have the return of something or a big shocking event that in itself, if you advertised like the person's going to be there or whatever, and it would draw more money, then you're kayfabing yourself. But if you have a situation where what you're going to do as a surprise is going to lead to a match that's going to draw more money, then okay, that's okay. So you got to figure that out. But if it was a major top heel in a match that people wanted to see, and he just cashed it in when the babyface was weak and won it, especially on TV, you've deprived yourself of a match you could have advertised and promoted. But another way to do that, which I saw work very well, and as a matter of fact, I almost started a riot, was the 5-minute manager deal, where the babyface, if he beats the heel, he gets 5 minutes with the manager. And of course, the babyface always gets 5 minutes with the manager, right? But in this case, it was the Iron Sheik and Lawler in Louisville at the Gardens, and it's a big house anyway. But when Lawler won, he won by disqualification because the Sheik had just hit him overhead with a chair and knocked him out. So Hart, if Lawler wins, he gets 5 minutes with Hart, but he's laying there unconscious. Hart gets in, does 2 jumping jacks, covers him, and pins him 1, 2, 3. And the fucking people almost hit the ring. The cops were hustling. The Sheik was not happy, much less poor Jimmy. Poo-Poo was scared. And he should have been. I was scared taking pictures at ringside. But, I mean, you can do some surprise cash-in bullshit or whatever when the babyface is down and stuff like that, but not when you're just giving away a main event match or a big title change that you think might draw money. Do you see where I'm going with this?
I do. And one other thing about this, knowing that you have this in your arsenal every year, knowing that every year you're going to have an event where there's a match where the person who wins can redeem a title shot at any point throughout the calendar year. As a booker, if you were booking something in the territory days with that sort of scenario, I got to think that gives you a lot of creative freedom, a lot of room, a lot of ways to get out of something if you need to. There's so much ambiguity, but there is that gimmick overhead.
Yeah. Well, and also if your champion is a heel, then he should be doing everything he can to duck and dodge the guy or fuck the guy up before he can, get a chance to cash it in. And you should be advertising the date he's going to cash it in, because everybody should want to see that. And the heel puts the obstacles in his path before then. But if it's a babyface champion, then you probably want a heel to surprise him in some fashion or respect or whatever, or at least rough him up a little bit, and maybe then maybe you could even, if you did it right, you could make the babyface demand from the promoter that he go ahead and use it. He's holding this over my head. I want to get him in the fucking ring. And then the heel saying, well, and then you turn it completely around. The guy doesn't want the title shot. He's like, no, I did rape your fucking mother and stuck your dog in the oven, but now I don't want the title shot. I'm going to wait for a while and fuck with you about this. And so the babyface champion demands that the promoter make the heel cash his fucking shot in on such and such day at Fire on the Mountain or whatever the fuck. There's all kinds of things you could do with something like that. Just off the top of my head, but that's just me.
Yeah, no, that was a really good idea, and that was a lot of fun.
Don't just suck up to me here now. People, people will think, well, he's so sycophantic. And he's a sycophant and masturbating. That doesn't really work. It ain't got the atin in there. It's got the antin.
Yeah, every single variation you've done of that has had masturbating in it so far. That's the one key ingredient.